Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Devil's Advocate Trades Edition. It's just me solo today, so we're just going to have another little tirade. So here's the thing, so there's a lot of things going on in the world, and I just wanted to talk about different things and some perspectives that some of us have and some of us don't, and I mean, do with the information as you will, because I'm all about having an opinion, you know. So here's the thing, so there's a couple of things you guys need to know about me. So I pay attention to astrology. And when I say astrology, I don't mean like, oh my God, what's your sign? That's so you. Not like that. I mean like the actual planets. So I met an astrologist a long, long time ago. She's an amazing woman. And I flew out to Phoenix to go see her and meet her in person for the first time and stayed with her. And she's just a doll. And she's astrology in the soul. Her name is Charlene. And Charlene kind of semi-passed the torch to me in regards to learning and understanding astrology, planets, right? So how the planets align, conjunct, trine, squared, all that stuff, and what it means to us as people. So as some of you may know, like when this launches, it will be out of that timeline, but from September 7th to the 21st, a lot of people are chattering about it because it is there's a lot of things going on. You've got a 9 portal in there. You've got basically releasing bad karma, or like it's one of those things where things are just kind of coming at you with where everything is. I'm not going to get into depth about it because that's not what my podcast is about, so you guys can go look it up. But there's a lot of people talking about it on TikTok and whatnot, and I don't identify myself as an astrologer or an astrologist. But I do pay attention to a lot of it, and I really try and put forward some aspects for myself. So with being someone who pays attention to astrology and, you know, knows a little bit more than the everyday Joe, I do like to take a look at it and see what works for me. I do also pay attention to numerology. It was one of the reasons why I bought my house. My house is a 5-house, freedom and change. I needed a lot of change in my life, and I was going through a lot of changes, which means I find that the energy of the 5-house keeps me quick on my feet for change. So that's a good thing. I do have a cold, so you probably hear me sniff a little bit, but you know, I mean, it's September, my kids are back to school, and yay us. So the other part about numerology is I am a Life Path 33, which is a master teacher, which is why I've got a big microphone in front of me, because, you know, someone said to me, master teachers need to teach, and they need to be able to spread the word of whatever's going on. Now, I'm not really teaching. I'm providing an opportunity for all of you to teach. I want you guys to come on and have a conversation with me, whatever it's about. Recognizing all of the good you've done, recognizing different things that are unfair inside of government, recognizing things that are unfair inside of trades. Whatever it is, I give you the platform to basically come on and just have a conversation with me. Let me get to know who you are, what your product is, or what you do, and why you got there and why you're doing it, what you love about it, what you hate about it, some things that have maybe gone on that have traumatized you. And then I bring on people who are resourceful, and they talk about wellness. And I'm a big person for wellness. So, you know, those are just little things about me that you can know. You know, there's lots of things to know about me, but I mean, like, you know, then I won't have any more content if I share it all in one. But I'm just kidding. But with that being said, you know, when we talk about this, and then there was an awful thing that happened in the States. And, you know, I mean, it depends who you talk to, right? So everyone's talking about CK that got pew-pewed. That's what we're all saying. People say assassinated, people say murdered, people say everything. But here's the thing. So as a centered thinking liberal, I'm disgusted. I don't believe that anybody should be killed in cold blood in front of anybody or at all. So for me, and the fact that it was televised all over the fucking place, they didn't catch it. They weren't catching it before. It was all about censoring. And don't get me wrong, there's aspects of it where it's like, okay, well, they're not censoring, but why are they not censoring this? They censor everything else, but they're going to like take this and go on a tirade with it. And I was not happy about that at all. I was really upset that I not only could I see what had happened in real time, but in multiple angles. And then who they caught, and then everyone's talking about that, and how it's one of their own, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, you know what, guys, we've gotten to a place that's so far away from fucking reality at the end of the day. And you know what, that is my opinion, and opinions are like assholes. Do I think that Charlie Kirk spewed hate? I do think that based on some of the clips that I saw, because you can't get full context from a 3 to 6 minute short or clip, and you sure can't do it in 280 characters of a tweet. So it's one of the big reasons why my podcast is uncensored and is unedited, because conversations are messy. It's just what they are. They're messy. I appreciate that he was a debater and wanted to go in and debate. Did I agree with him? No, I didn't agree with his stance on religion. I didn't agree with his stance on the nuclear family. I didn't agree with his stance on, different races in the world, the LGBTQ. I didn't agree with him on any of it. We had opposing views. It was just what it was. We had opposing views. Do I think that he weaponized some of his dialogue? Yeah, I do. I really do. I think that some people get really good at taking their opinion and wrapping it in how it applies to God and how it applies to, the fundamental future and what it should look like, and creates a lot of emotional turbulence amongst people, and then turns around and creates a manipulation where there's a division. And that's kind of his job, was to continue to create some sort of divisiveness amongst all of us. Here's the thing. I've got a shit ton of people that are conservative in my life, and I'll even razz them. I'll be like, oh, sounds like a conservative comment. And we'll joke, and we don't always agree, and we don't see eye to eye on some things. But you know what we do see eye to eye on? How much we make, what kind of house we live in, what we do with our kids, what school we put our kids in, just general conversation. I sit with my neighbors, and sometimes we talk politics, but everyone's always like, politics is a taboo topic, and I'm like, who gives a shit? Just tell me your position. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I'm going to tell you that I don't agree, and I'm allowed to not agree. And that's one of the things. In my last episode, I said that I got sick and tired of people making shit political. Case in point, this all went fucking political real quick. And I'm not gonna lie, I've actually been trying to change my algorithm. For the first little bit, I kind of laughed. And I didn't laugh at what happened. I laughed at the reaction, the response. Because people are actually really funny sometimes, even in a really horrible situation. But, you see all these, I saw a reel where it was a band of Caucasian people that were freaking out. American flag was there, we got to get these people, blah, blah, before they knew who had done it. And then, then it was after the fact, the clip duets, and someone stitches into it, and there's, there's a brother that comes on, and he's like, yo, that was y'all, that was you guys. And I can't help but laugh, because it's like, you guys are having some tirades, massive emotions about what's happened. And I mean, did you know him personally? Were you friends with him? Did you break bread with him? You're acting kind of nuts over something that happened that should just be, instead of freaking out and screaming and blaming everybody, you should have been like, this is awful. But I blame politics across the board, both sides, left and right. And it's upsetting to me, because they both do it, but it's and then I listen to people and they're like, oh, now we got to be careful what we say. And I'm like, but do you need to be careful on what you're saying? Or do you need to be careful on the dialogues that you're creating to weaponize people's emotions, and then turn around and then, basically let them be the vessel of hate because you just helped carry that word? And then now there's a fallout, and everybody's upset and everybody's angry, and I'm just like, meh. I try to find the humor in it, but when I say humor, I don't mean because there's nothing funny about him being killed. Let's just start there. That's full stop. There's nothing funny about it. What's funny is just the way people take his rhetoric, and then they repeat it, and then they're like, I didn't want empathy. But then you got to hear the whole thing, right? Some people have heard the whole thing. I've heard the whole comment about, empathy versus sympathy and whatnot. That's why I say you got this context, right? But I have seen some of his speeches from start to finish, and I don't agree. I know that. I know I don't agree with the way he thought about things. When he said there was two genders, I was like, yeah, typically there is two genders. In my opinion, there is two genders, but you can change to be whichever one you want. Sometimes you can be both, but we've identified that there is a male-female gender or male-female sex, and I mean, there's combinations of it. So some people, I know there's women that have gone through the world with an XY chromosome, but they are women and they're capable. Like, we're not talking trans, we're talking born, have a vagina, have a uterus, have had children of their own, but are carrying Y chromosomes. And it's happened. I've read reports on it. I've read studies. So it's not like I'm so small-minded to be like, there's only 2 genders and that's it. And it's like, no, I know that there's variations, but in my brain, it's still the only 2. Like, there's not like man, woman, Martian, you know, like there's Martians living among us, but I don't know that to be a gender, so, or a sex. I know that to be a species. In every species, there's one or the other. That's my point. And so, like, that's when I say you have to be careful when you're talking about context, right? Make sure you understand what the person is saying before you, or hear the whole thing right through before you start making a judgment call. And we all get really emotional when it comes to certain things, right? Like, we can get behind things. I don't like Christian nationalists. You know what? I have some neighbors of mine. This is a funny story. I'm going to tell you guys a funny story. Funny story. So, Lisa McGrath story time. I got a couple of neighbors. Some of my neighbors have been on, and a couple of my neighbors are Christians, and we were talking about it. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not a big fan of religion because I just get kind of bejiggity about, you know, like God this, God that. Do I believe in a God? Sure I do. Absolutely. I'm a very spiritual person. But I just don't like the, like, you know, the, if you do this, if you do that, like the guilt, the heaping side of fucking guilt for doing shit. And I'm just like, you guys all sit in your fucking pews of hypocrisy every Sunday and think that it's going to wash away your fucking sins. And then you guys are going to go back and do the same shit all over again. Like, I think you guys are all a bunch of hypocrites. But I have these neighbors that are Christians, and they are the epitome of what a Christian should be. They are sweet and kind. They don't shove their religion down your throat. They wish you well. They're always looking out for you. They have the biggest hearts. They want to give. They'd rather give to somebody in need than to give to the church. And I'm like, well, isn't that what you're supposed to do? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, why don't we, we're sitting around, a bunch of us were sitting around, and I'm like, why don't you guys just start a church? And funny enough, the spouse says to me, well, that's a cult, Lisa. And I'm like, I'm for it. Let's bring some appetizers and some drinks, and we can preach here, you know? I started laughing, which actually makes me kind of laugh because as a podcaster, I also listen to podcasts, and one of them is, it's a little bit culty, which is hilarious. She does a great job, by the way. So I do really like that podcast. It's a little bit culty. If you guys ever get a chance, go check it out. The other podcast that I love is called, hang on, I know what it's called because I went and looked it up, but I also knew it because they actually say it. What is it? I've had it. So with Jennifer Welch and Angie Pumps Sullivan. They're fucking hilarious. I love those ladies. What does she call them? Cankles McTaco Tits? Fucking hilarious. She's so funny. And then they have people come on and they like, I've had it with, and they say all the shit they've had it with, and it's fucking hilarious. I love watching those women. I think they're great podcasters. So if you guys haven't checked them out, check them out because they're super funny. And I love their perspective. We mirror each other on the way we see the world and the way we see certain people, and kind of our political aspects, I think, are a little similar. So I do enjoy paying attention to them and watching them. So, if you guys get a chance, go check out those 2 different ones. But anyways, in this world, that's what it is, right? Like you get a chance to meet some pretty amazing people. And I finally get a chance to meet Christians that are true to what the Word of God would have been. They're not judgmental. They're not angry. They don't try and shove things down your throat. They're easygoing people. They'll give their shirt off with their back to you. They're genuinely happy people. And I love that. I wish all Christians were like them because, I look at what happened and, based on how the States is responding to Charlie Kirk's death, almost seems kind of like breaking the first commandment, which is interesting because you shouldn't do that. Now, if you also go backwards and read about evangelical and how that's all a thing, I don't like a lot of the people. See, here's the thing. You take people that, are really well known for something like, speaking in the evangelical religion as a pastor or whatever they are called over on that side. I don't know. I don't care to be corrected. And they turn around and they will give a really heinous view of the world at that time, and then they pass it on, and then the hate just perpetuates. And I was watching something that was so profound to me, and this man said, you know what? He goes, I don't blame Charlie Kirk and I don't blame the man that killed him. He goes, I blame society and government and what they've shoved down these people's throats to think that it's okay to spew this. Don't mourn your enemy and don't celebrate their death. Do neither. Because at the end of the day, our society has gone in such a way that it's just so divisive that people are just, they're at each other's throats when really the person you're fighting with the MAGA hat on, or the person you're fighting that's, you know, standing on the other side, you know, wearing the blue, they're probably the exact same as you. They're probably going through the same trials and tribulations. They probably have a divorce, a narcissistic spouse, school problems, bully problems. They're probably going through the same shit you are, but the government and the like the 1% of elites that are creating all of this drama, you know, are benefiting from us to be divided when we shouldn't be. Because let's be honest, like, the masses win. The more people you have in your army, the better chance you have to succeed. So why wouldn't we all band together? Why wouldn't we unite, right? And they always say that. That's like the one phrase we heard. And I mean, the timing does not go unnoticed for Charlie Kirk's death. The 10th of September, next day is September 11th. Come on. And what did it say? And that's where I think you guys needed to stand, because you missed the point. United we stand together, and divided we fall. And that was something that was said, you know, back then when it happened. And then all of a sudden, like, it was like the one day where everybody should be coming together in that remembrance. It was a very traumatic moment for the States, and they didn't. They were so outraged, and it just almost got worse. And I'm like, come on, you guys. For the Americans that didn't go unnoticed to, and they recognized that, and they talked and they spoke to it, like, I commend you, because that's a big thing. But now if you guys come back because everyone's emotions are high and we're jumping on bandwagons, and you come back and you say, you know what, I said some horrible shit about Charlie Kirk's death, and you know what, I don't wish that on anybody. It shouldn't have happened, and I apologize for saying that. I'll accept that apology. We're all human. You know, I'd be like, yeah, you're probably not a horrible person. But it also depends on the content that you put out in regards to it. If it was just like, if it was something, I don't know, like tongue-in-cheek maybe, but if it's like pretty vicious, then maybe not. But then you might think that way. I mean, as far as a lot of people are concerned, they felt that he spread hate. And I'm not going to necessarily disagree with you. I think that because of how it was said and who he targeted, I felt that it was somewhat weaponized. And so that's where I struggle with it. But at the end of the day, I think everybody needs to make their own point. They need to make their own mind up about what they feel about it. I'm trying to change my algorithm to baby cows and baby donkeys, just letting you all know, because I'm sick and tired of seeing the shit. I'm just over it at this point. It happened. It's unfortunate. Condolences to his family, especially his children. I would never wish that upon any person, but now I'm ready to look at baby goats and baby cows and horses and kittens. That's where I'm at. I'm trying to change my fucking algorithm because I can't stand that shit. Although I do have a lot of fun watching a lot of different shit that's on the internet. When we doom scroll, it's like how our brain shuts off, especially when we're, you know, dealing with a lot of shit. Everyone does it. Everyone's like, I need to shut down. I'm going to doom scroll. You know how you're like, okay, I got to go. I'm going to go to bed now. You don't go to bed. You doom scroll for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Sometimes it turns into 3 and you're like, oh shit. So that's what I do. It happens all the time. And then it's funny because my friends will do that too. They'll be like, oh yeah, you know, I'm really tired. I'm going to go to bed. And then I get like 6 fucking pebbling of reels from them. And I'm like, oh, you're going to bed, asshole. And they're like, yeah, you know. So whatever. But anyways, I think that's pretty much a little bit all I've got. I mean, that's really all I got to say. I mean, it's one of those things that's coming up. Oh, I am going to, well, I will have gone by that point because we're still in the little portal aspect because I think we're the 17th today. So when this launches, it'll be next week. I will have gone to the podcast summit. I ended up getting a free ticket. Thank you very much to the podcast summit for, I think it was, hang on, I want to make sure I give the right thank you because it was an actual affiliate of the podcast. Okay, let's see. Show pass. Let me see here. Hang on. So it says, we're happy to tell you the podcast summit through Indie Podcast Bursary Program. So thank you, Indie Podcaster Bursary Program, for sending me a ticket to go to the YYC Podcast Summit on the 19th. So I will be attending that. So that will be a lot of fun. I will make sure to report back to all of you and let it know how it went. I was kind of hoping my producer would come with me, but he didn't end up, because he's in Ontario, so he'd have to fly in and all that jazz. So he won't be coming with me, but that's too bad. But I'll make sure I send him lots of pictures, maybe give him the finger, you know. I made it, you didn't. But hopefully there's going to be one out in Ontario that he can attend. So, yeah. I mean, other than that, guys, I think that, it is what it is and it will be what it will be. But let's try not to make everything political. Let's try and take a step back and not be so fucking desensitized, not be overly sensitive, but be sensitive to the fact that we are too sensitive in areas that don't matter and not sensitive enough in areas that should. I think that's where we need to pay attention. I hope everybody is back to school and all that craziness is going good, because I tell you, I got a cold and I hate it. It's bullshit. So, but anyways, you guys have a wonderful week ahead of you, and we'll catch you next week or the week after. I've got a list of people that are supposed to be coming on, but they're booking, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm like, well, maybe I'll just make a segment and do something fun for Condo, Anyhow, yeah, we'll catch you guys on the flip side, and don't do anything crazy.